Hey readers, we're going back in time today to the days of yore where my love of mysteries began. Hi, I'm Lori. Welcome back to my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper, or welcome if this is your first time. And because it's March Mystery Madness, I've really been focused a lot on mysteries lately and kind of the root of where my love of mysteries began. I know not everyone is a big fan of mysteries, so if this video isn't your jam, I totally understand, but I hope you'll stick with it because there's a little bit of women's history here as well. And this is a great month for us to focus on women's history, and International Women's Day was just celebrated recently, and I totally forgot about it. And there's just a lot to be celebrated, I think, in this genre. 4 books to share with you that I recently hauled. So I'm doing a little bit of a mini haul as well. This is a jam-packed video and some other folks that I've maybe talked about before and maybe have not. So let's get started. You might want to grab a cup of coffee or tea or something stronger, whatever works for you. I have no judgment. I know nothing about what you're doing. We're going to start with the dame of all dames in my mind, and that's Agatha Christie. I began reading Agatha Christie, as I've mentioned before, at a very young age. The first Agatha Christie that was published was in 1957, I think. The first book that I read by Agatha Christie was given to me by my sisters probably in around 1969, maybe. I would say 1969, the end of that decade. And this particular book that I read first was published in 1957, so it was fairly new then. Yes, I am a bit old, but that was 450 from Paddington. This is going to be hard for you to see. I have been so inundated with yellow books lately, I can't even tell you. This is a series that's been published recently, and I have now about 5 of them. I got these from a yard sale the other day, and it makes me very happy. These are Black Dog and Leventhal publishers. These came out from New York. I just think they're cute, and they match. Now, will I get every Agatha Christie in this version? I don't know. I don't know, but I have a lot of them already. I have some that were my sisters. I have some that my other sister is probably going to, my glasses are crooked, is probably going to gift to me at some point in her life. So I'm not going to be in any shortage of Agatha Christie novels, but this was the first one I remember reading, and I loved it because it was all kind of about this train. It was about a woman on a train whose name is Elizabeth McGillicuddy, and she witnesses what she thinks is a crime, a death on the train. She sees another train go by, and she sees somebody killing a woman. And so she is freaked out. She reports it. Nobody can discover who this person was or what she's talking about. And then she reaches out to her friend, Jane Marple. Now, if you know me, you probably remember me saying before, Miss Marple is my favorite. I'm not opposed to Hercule Poirot. I do enjoy Hercule Poirot now and again, but Miss Marple, Jane Marple is it for me. And when I watch the Agatha Christie series adaptations on TV, I usually gravitate toward anything about Jane. I just love her. Nevertheless, Agatha Christie was born in 1890 and she died in 1976, so she lived a nice long life. She wrote plays as well as these detective novels, 66 of these she wrote, and 14 short stories, and she's outsold only by the Bible and William Shakespeare. That is quite something. Now, Agatha Christie can be problematic, and I'm aware of it, and I want you to know that I am. I was not aware of it until I was an adult, because here I was, young Lori, reading all of these books that my sisters were pressing in my hands that were published in the U.S. The U.S. had corrected the original English printed versions, or British printed versions, by eliminating the N-word. Agatha Christie was apparently a heavy user of the N-word, and some of her book titles also had some really racist tones to them. They were reworded as well, and I don't know if we in America reworded them first and then the Brits followed suit. I don't know. I've really not looked at it a lot, except to say that I don't run into it much because I've really only ever bought books that were published in the US. So I do still read these and I do still collect them and I do still have great memories of my sisters bringing them into my life. So the other day I got these four at a yard sale, The Mysterious Affair at Styles, which yes, I already own, but I got another one, Murder in Mesopotamia, which I don't think I have now. I did have at one point before, the Great Storm. The ABC Murders, which I also have in another version, but that's okay. And then 450 from Paddington, which I have my sister's original paperback copy of that. I'll probably never get rid of that. I don't know how that survived the storm, but it did. So here we go. I have presented to you Dame Agatha Christie, who really was a dame. The next one is another favorite of mine, and I don't have as many of hers, and that's Daphne du Maurier. I have these three on my shelves currently, and I do plan to get a few more, and I have a couple on ebook as well. So Daphne du Maurier was born in 1907, so a little bit younger than Agatha, and died in April of 1989. Also lived a nice long life. Daphne du Maurier wrote 12 novels and 2 autobiographies. So Rebecca remains my favorite. I have not read My Cousin Rachel yet, but do want to get to it. And I really do also love The House on the Strand. And I've also read another one, which now escapes me. But if I can remember what it is, I'll pop the title here. It may not be on Goodreads because I read these quite some time ago. She also was a playwright and a biographer, as I mentioned earlier. And she is considered to be a romance novelist, but all of her titles have a bit of a suspenseful piece to them. Oh, The Birds. She wrote The Birds. I've read The Birds. I've also read, there was one I read that had The Birds and another one in it. I read that too. I've read several of hers, but The Birds remains one of my favorite books, but also one of my favorite films. If you've never seen Tippi Hedren in The Birds, you got to go find it today. I'm going to tell you. Fantastic. So while some people consider her a romance writer, some people consider her a bit of a horror writer, some people consider her a gothic romance mystery novelist, and that is me. I think these are very mysterious, and I really love them. So Elizabeth Peters, also introduced to me by my sisters. So grateful for them in my life. She's really called Barbara Mertz in real life. So Elizabeth Peters is a pseudonym that she wrote under. She was born in September 29, 1927, and died August 8, 2013. She had a PhD in Egyptology from the University of Chicago, and she lived in Chicago for quite some time. The first book of hers that I read and don't have anymore was Crocodile on the Sandbank. This is the first in the Amelia Peabody series. I would really, really love to get back to the Amelia Peabody series. This is one of those books, but I think this is like book 6. I grabbed this one day from a little free library, I think, or maybe I purchased it, or maybe I grabbed it off my sister's shelf. I don't know, but I can't get to this one until I get through the first 5 or 6. Also, it's been a really long time since I read Crocodile on the Sandbank, so I would love to get to that one again. But Amelia Peabody is a young woman whose father, I think, or grandfather, was an Egyptologist, and he would go on these excavation digs to try to find all kinds of things that were buried and lost in that particular area of the world. And Amelia Peabody discovers a crime has occurred and she's going to help solve it. Love the series. Love this author. This book that I have is The Camelot Caper. This is a standalone. This one is also interesting. This is about a woman whose name is Jessica, and she goes to England to surprise her grandfather. But when she gets there, somebody tries immediately to steal her luggage, which is really not good, and later accosts her in a cathedral. And people are coming after her, and she has no idea why. And so I would love to read this one because it's always intrigued me. And I think I got this one in my used bookstore because there is a sticker on the back. So I recommend Elizabeth Peters based on just having read one book, but really loving it, knowing that my sisters really loved this series, and because I love anything that is set in Egypt and really focuses around uncovering those kinds of wonderful surprises under the sandbanks. This one I recently talked about because I recently went back to this series because I didn't complete it either. You know, I've got a whole bunch of series that I need to focus on, but this is Margaret Truman. I have four of these now, and I had many, many more of them before, and I, again, kind of lost them. My sister, I think, has all of these as well. This series is more current. Margaret Truman was born in 1924 and she died in 2018, I think. She also lived in Chicago for a bit of time. Love my Chicago authors, but she was not born there, I don't think. Margaret Truman was the daughter of President Harry S. Truman. Many of you already know that. And Bess was her mother. But Margaret Truman was not only a novelist, she was also a classic soprano, a journalist. She was a radio and TV personality. And then, of course, she wrote 82 books. I think she probably gets the prize for the most books in the end. I think so. Because all of these authors that I'm telling you about today have passed away. So this is sort of a, an end game for many of us who want to read the series because there are no longer any others coming out. But so I read this one last fall when I went to Arizona to visit my sister and brother-in-law and discovered how many books she really has. I'm just saying. But this is the first in the capital crimes novels, and I've really always loved those. I did not read these in order. I will say I have not read Murder at the Watergate, so that one is new to me. And I don't think I read Murder on Capitol Hill either, but I definitely read Murder in the CIA because that one was set in Budapest, where I worked at the embassy. So that was one that I had to read, and my sister actually sent me that one when that one came out, which I will tell you when that is because I don't remember. That was in 1987. And I was in Hungary from 1985 to 1989. So there you go. They say she was at the embassy, but I never saw her. I don't know if she was really there. So I would love to get caught back up on this series and reread a few of these because I really love them and they're fast paced and they're all centered in DC. In fact, I did not do this on purpose, but I have my Washington, DC hoodie on today because it's chilly and I have the windows open and I love it. Her name actually was Mary Margaret Truman. I mean, I love that name, Mary Margaret. It has a little bit of a ring to it, right? The last one we're going to talk about is P.D. James. She was a baroness. So P.D. James was actually named Phyllis Dorothy James White, and she was the Baroness James of Holland Park. So fairly prestigious there. She wrote a total of 26 books. 14 of them were in the Adam Dalgliesh series. She wrote 2 for the Cordelia Gray mysteries. She wrote 3 novels that are standalone, 4 short story collections, and 3 nonfiction works. So I have 2 Dalgliesh, 1 standalone, and 1 short story collection of hers at this moment. This was one that I got a long time ago, and I think this is book 12 of the 14. I guess you could read them out of order, but I don't know if I will do that. It's always a conundrum for me. Anyway, I love this cover with this little bookmark. This one in particular is a private museum on the edge of London's Hampstead Heath, devoted to the interwar years, is in turmoil. The museum's founder and his children are bitterly at odds of whether or not the museum should stay open, and then one of them is brutally murdered. So the murder room must be the room in the museum that she was murdered in. And then this is number 14, which I got out of a little free library. And so I can't go there. That last one might be, This one is a short story collection I purchased for myself. I don't remember when. This came out in 2016, so not terribly long ago. And this one has 4 short stories in it. If you're curious, The Mistletoe Murder is 1, A Very Commonplace Murder is 2, The Boxdale Inheritance, and then The 12 Clues of Christmas. This is 123 small pages long, but I love a good murder mystery at Christmas, so that's not indicative of my craziness. And then the last one is that I have is An Unsuitable Job for a Woman. This is in the Cordelia Gray series. I don't know if this is the first one in that series or the second. I don't know that it matters though. So this is about Cambridge dropout Mark Callender, who's died by what they think is suicide, hanging himself. And Cordelia Gray tries to find out what made him decide to kill himself. There was a faint trace of lipstick on his mouth when they found him dead, and she discovers a twisting trail of secrets and sins and the strong scent of murder. Yes, I know. It's so hard. It's so hard. So these are my dames of mystery, madness, and books that I really want to try to prioritize. In fact, so much so that I think I'm going to start adding one of these a month to my TBR and do kind of a recap of the murder mysteries that I'm reading and maybe listening to, because these books, in my mind, really deserve a second look in some cases, as well as a first look in many cases. It is really hard for me to stay focused on a series consistently and complete it. It is just my eclectic spirit that just likes a variety of things, don't like to be pinned down, stomped my feet sometimes when I had to do the same thing twice. Yeah, so I like a variety in my life, no question. But I also like to complete things. And when I do complete things, I feel so good about myself. Can I get to be a completist in 2025 for these authors, all these authors? Probably not, unless that's all I read from now till the end of the year. But will I begin to focus on them? Yes. So I may even do a series about them and, just kind of talk about what each book is about, or talk about like authors that are like these or authors that liked them, or maybe more information about them. There is a whole thing we could go into about that time that Agatha Christie disappeared and nobody knew where she was. That's very controversial. I also have a couple of biographies about Agatha Christie, and then I have a fictional book that I have not read, The Christie Affair, which is a speculative book about the time that she went missing. So that's a possibility. And then, of course, Margaret Truman. We could talk about things Margaret Truman did all the time, right? So if you're interested in this and you want more of this, do let me know, because I'm just gauging what interests you and also what excites me. And I got to say, I'm pretty excited about all of these choices again and getting back to them. Let me know in the comments below what your relationship is to any of these grand dames of mystery madness and what you'd like to see in the future, and which books you're reading or enjoying that are maybe along these same lines. Let me know whatever you want me to know. And if you have nothing to say in the comments below, but you want me to know that you were here, you could put a pair of glasses in the comments below. You could put an eyeglass if there is one. You could put little footsteps if you're solving a murder. Whatever you think is murder mystery related, pop it in the comments below and I'll know you were here. And thanks so much for all your support, for your comments, for your love and caring. And as always, happy reading. Bye.